You're listening to an archived Cabral Concept podcast. After listening to this show, check out the most up-to-date podcasts available at stephencabral.com/podcasts or search directly on iTunes. And now, welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Thanks for joining me here today on this Wellness and Weight Loss Wednesday. Excited to be bringing this show to you. I'm actually in Tampa, Florida right now, just about actually to go on the Ben Pakulski podcast. I will let you know when that launches. Excited to be doing his show. And today I wanted to be able to bring you, while I'm here, have a little bit of free time, I've been doing a lot of thinking about this. So I've had a bunch of flights. I spoke in Arizona. I'm now in Tampa. Then I'm heading back to Florida. And then another week or two, I'm over on the West Coast again in California. Flights are a good time for me to really think about, what's working, what's not working, kind of just overall look at my entire life. And that includes my big five, right? My career, the body, the relationships, the overall health, and the spirituality. And so what I like to do is I like to keep things very, very simple. Too many people in their life overcomplicate things. They overcomplicate their workouts, they overcomplicate their diets, their relationships. What I want you to do is I want you to understand that there are basic concepts that everyone needs to follow. Should everyone have a bio-individualized based diet and workout and all of those things? Absolutely. But first, you have to start with a foundation. And so one thing I always talk about is that you need to create your own go-to shopping list, a go-to food list that you like, but at the same time, they're also healthy foods. One thing I always think about is, my dad, and he likes just so few healthy foods, like so few. Probably you can count them on just your hands. That's it. That's about it. So my job when trying to help him is to say, listen, if the only vegetable you're going to eat is spinach, we need to eat spinach every day because that's literally the only vegetable he will eat except potatoes. And I'd say that's a pseudo vegetable, in terms of getting the phytonutrients that you get from your green leafy vegetables, your brightly colored ones, right? Because they're not sweet potatoes that he's eating. They're just white potatoes, which are fine. It's okay, but not at the best in terms of the glycemic response and fiber and all the things that I'm looking for, especially in the evening. What I'm going to talk about today is helping you to create your go-to food list. And like I was saying in the beginning, and I've spoken about this a little bit before, but this really bears repeating, is that people get way too fancy with the meals they're trying to prepare on a typical daily basis. Listen, if once a week you get some free time on a Friday night or Saturday night and you want to make just a beautiful meal, beautiful dinner, then I'm all for that. And I actually think that that's a lot of fun because you're getting to enjoy the food culinary experience and hopefully eating slowly, enjoying that with your partner or whether it's friends or family, whatever it might be. I think that's great. But on a typical day-to-day basis, if you're someone like myself, I come home, my wife is definitely, cooking for the family, preparing for the family. She does a great job. But we have 2 kids, and anyone that's home and is trying to prepare dinner with 2 kids running around, it has to be simple, right? It has to be clean and good and simple and not get too crazy because you're probably not going to have 90 minutes of peace and quiet in the kitchen, right? So what we want to do is we want a bunch of go-tos. This is the same thing I've also preached for years, for decades in exercise. And I've always said, listen, you can get fancy with your exercises. That's okay. Have some fun if you want, if you have the skill to be able to do those fancier exercises such as box jumps or plyometric-based exercises. Any of those, they are absolutely incredible if your body is prepped for it and you're getting the proper recovery, right? And your joints can withstand it, all of those things. But for the most part, you want to be doing what most experts in the fitness field are saying. And we kind of all agree is that you want to focus on your major lifts. So I'm about to give you the diet. Now I want to just allude to what that would be for exercise. And again, I've spoken about this before. What I always talk about is you need to make sure that in 1 week or one program for your exercises, it includes a squat, a deadlift, which is some type of hinge movement for the glutes and hamstrings, some type of lunge or step up. Okay, both of them are great. Probably not as great as a squat and the deadlift, but great. And then you need to be doing a press, vertical press and horizontal press for the body. Again, there are always contraindications, especially for a vertical press. Some type of pull or pull down, I should say, for the lats, and some type of row for more of the rhomboid-based movements for your posture, right? And then besides that, what do you have? Well, you have some core work. It doesn't have to be crunches, but some type of either anti-rotation or rotational-based work. So you have a squat, a deadlift, lunge, and step up for the lower body. And then you have a press and pull or slash row for the upper body. And then you have some type of rotation or core work as well. That's it. You can get as fancy as you want, but nowhere in there did I say a one leg standing on the Bosu while curling with the opposite arm at the same time. I didn't say that, right? That would just be a bicep curl. That, and you're just trying to change the proprioception, make it a little bit more imbalanced, which is really not going to do too much for building your biceps if that's the intention. So what you want to do is you want to focus on what works. Here's always the thing. If you've already reached your goals, then good. You have a lot more leeway. But if you haven't quite reached your goal yet, or at least 90% of the time, even if you have reached your goal, you want to stick with what works, what's always worked. And until our body somehow evolves and changes, it's always going to work. And that's the thing, whether you're looking at literally like the Greek and Roman bodybuilders to the bodybuilders of today. I'm not saying you want to look like a bodybuilder, right? That might not be your thing, but that is the way to transform your body. Now, again, you're not going to take it to that level, but you are going to get yourself in great shape. Again, Ben Pakulski, I mentioned him earlier. He has something called his 40, right? His 40 exercises. And those 40 exercises is, essentially all he does. Now, it's 40 exercises. That's quite a bit, right? But not when that's all you do, right? He rotates through those with different programs throughout the year. And it's smart because there's really nothing else that you need to do. And all of those 40 essentially are encompassed in the squat, the deadlift, the lunge, the step up, the presses, the rows, the pulls, and the rotation. I haven't seen the exact 40, but I'm guaranteeing they fall within those compound movements. And the reason is there's no wasted movements. They're natural human movements. And they put the greatest tension on the muscles, which is what we want in order to strengthen them, prevent osteoporosis in the future, boost metabolism, etc., right? Be able to better utilize glucose. So I want to talk now about the same exact thing with food. You're going to get the absolute best results in 3 ways, okay? You're going to get healthier if you eat healthy foods. You're going to automatically reach your natural goal weight, a healthy goal weight, if you eat healthy foods. And you're going to chances are automatically live longer and healthier if you eat healthy foods, right? So now the only hard part is being able to know which ones are the healthy foods and how to keep it simple so that you can eat those on a daily basis. So I'm going to talk about a couple examples as well as we go through this, just to make this a lot easier as well as we're planning this, right? Because it's always about planning. It's always making sure that you are prepped to get the results that you want. So if we want to get well, if we want to lose the weight, and if we want to live longer, we need to eat healthier. It's the single most important thing. I would say there's only one thing that comes tied with it, 1A and 1B, and that is stress, right? That's a different show. We actually did cover that just last week on the Cabral concept under our Ayurvedic one. Or 2 weeks ago. It was episode, let's see if I can find that right here, episode 950, right, on stress. So here's what we have to understand, is that stress will actually hurt digestion, which will hurt the digestion of those foods, even if they're best foods in the world. But at the same time, so stress can obviously be implicated in almost every single disease or all disease. But at the same time, if you put poor foods in your body, they will cause cardiovascular disease. They will potentially cause cancer. They will potentially cause Alzheimer's, all the different diseases. Only those people who hit the genetic lottery won't get all of those diseases, although they certainly will if they live long enough, right? Because eventually those genetics will come to fruition through epigenetics if your environment and your diet and your lifestyle are not healthy. Then that's just the bottom line. We know that now. We absolutely know that. Some people, genetics kick in if they're not living a healthy lifestyle when they're in their 20s or maybe even their teens like I did, right? Or some people not until their 60s, 70s, 80s because they hit the lottery in that specific way. But how do you know, right? You don't always know. And that's the thing. That's why you have to do your best right now. So let's start to get into this. And what I want to do is I first want to talk about this. People are making things more complicated than they need to be. I teach people in my practice that I want you to come up with 6 meals. I came up with this idea when I was working with a challenging case, right? Pretty much all the people I work with are the challenging cases. And the reason is that they've already been, half a dozen to a dozen or more specialists. And we have to figure things out, right? And I always let them know, like, listen, this is going to be your last stop. This is it. We're going to figure this out together. And the reason we're going to figure out this together is because neither one of us is going to give up. That's the bottom line. If you don't give up, I won't give up. We'll figure this out. And so one person was dealing with just some really debilitating, just nausea after meals. And I think I might have shared this story before, but it was like one of the only one that eluded us for like 3 or 4 weeks. We just couldn't figure it out. And after the 21-day elimination, like it should be gone. With most people, it's just gone, especially in the Candida and bacterial overgrowth protocol. But anyway, for whatever reason, it persists. And I said, okay, we'll figure this out. We just don't know what it is. So we started rotating foods, and it wasn't formal enough. So what we did was we came up with a very simple rotation diet. And I will find this episode by the end of the show today. But again, I'm right now going to stevencabral.com/podcast. It's my most visited webpage for myself as well. And all you have to do on that search bar is literally type in your search, like whatever you want to find. There's is today 964? Somewhere around 964 shows. Yes, today is number 964. So there's a lot of shows on 964 different topics or more, because on the weekend host calls, we talk about even more topics, right? 5 to 10 topics per show. So I'm just literally going to type in rotation diet, okay? And I'm going to put that in quotation marks. So it only pulls up rotation diet on the search. And let's see if the podcast comes up. I might look bad right now, but we'll see if it comes up. It does. So there's only 2, and it's 849 and 754. Now, 849 just says rotation diet. It's on a house call. That means someone just wrote in asking about the rotation diet. So that's not the show. The singular show says 754, Weight Loss Wednesday, WW, and it says create your own rotation diet to figure out your hidden food sensitivities. So that's it. So check out episode 754 to find out exactly how to do this. You know that on the Cabral Concept, I literally give you everything that I do in my private practice. We have an international private practice. We've seen over 250,000 people, and I'm giving you the exact technique so that if you're a practitioner, you can teach it to others. You don't have to give me credit. I don't, again, we all learn from each other. Just do it in your practice, get phenomenal results, pay it forward, tell the person you healed to pay it forward to the next person. That's what this is all about, right? But at the same time, if you're not a practitioner, then try it out on yourself. Use it with a child in your family. Use it with your parents, your friends, your siblings, your coworkers, anyone in your community. Do this with them because it works. So with the rotation diet, what are we doing? Well, we're doing the same breakfast. We're doing a hypoallergenic breakfast. We're essentially doing a smoothie. And again, tune into that show. I can't give you all the specifics. That was a 25-minute show. But for the 3 meals, so it's over 3 days, all I need you to do is come up with 3 different lunches and 3 different dinners. That's it, 6 meals. That's all you have to do. And you're going to rotate through your different proteins, your different carbs, and then your different healthy fats. That's really it, okay? And again, we typically just do olive oil, so now we don't even have to do a fat. We're typically then just rotating through 2 vegetables, a starch if applicable for you, because you might not be doing as much starch, and a protein. And we'll be able to figure out which one of those foods, because most people don't eat more than 6 different types of meals. That's it. So you'll be able to figure out which one causes the bloating. And again, if you want more details, just go to episode 754. So here's what you do, though. You begin to realize that those are your go-to foods. So if you do the exercise, remember, it's an exercise in healthy living. It's an exercise in weight loss. And one caveat about weight loss is this. I just think that on Instagram, for the most part right now, and this goes for men and women, we're trying to help people to become way too lean, like an unhealthy version of lean. Honestly, people even just a couple hundred years ago would never, ever have wanted to get as lean and basically emaciated as people that they see today. It's detrimental to your body. You're putting your body in just that thin line space of not having enough and being very, very catabolic and just having enough on a daily basis. Now, it takes one to know one. I was there until the age of about 27, for sure. I did fitness shoots. I did, all sorts of natural bodybuilding, like all sorts of different things. I got my body fat down to 3% for certain shoots. I mean, so believe me, I was there, and that's why I never come down on anyone doing that right now, because I was in my 20s, my early 20s, and that's sometimes the way it is, But what I want you to do is, if you're past that, if you don't need that in your life, you don't need to be emaciatedly thin, and it's unhealthier for you. Now, you do have to look at your waist-hip ratio. And again, you can just go to stephencabral.com/podcast and type in waist to hip. And then you'll find the podcast very, very important on that. And I think most people should as well have a healthy BMI between 19 and 24, 24.9 at the very most. I would say no more than really 23.5. But again, it depends if you're endomorphic body type or Vata-based body type. And if you don't know what BMI is, simply go to stephencabral.com/podcast, type in BMI. All right, so let's go over when you begin to create these 6 meals. That's it, 6 meals. And you'll find out if you get bloated from one, what to do on that episode 754. But here's what you're going to look at. You're going to say, I really only eat the same 6 or 7 vegetables. And you might look at well, what am I going to really eat for proteins besides maybe chicken or fish or maybe some turkey? Not even a lot of people eat turkey. And if you're vegan, you're like, well, I usually have some hummus, or I have just straight chickpeas, or I have sprouted lentils, or whatever it might be. So we're not eating a ton of different foods. But the problem is we're not rotating them. But the other issue is, and even beyond that, and I'll talk about that in just a moment, whether you have to rotate them or not, because a lot of people don't, nor should they even have to, but they're making it overly complicated and they're not planning their day. So for example, we can all get access to healthy food for the most part. I would love for you only to eat organic, and I would love for you to only eat local, but that's not always an option. But what you can do are, again, listen to the Clean 15 and the Dirty Dozen and make sure that you never eat the Dirty Dozen conventional based. And if you can't find the Clean 15 organic, well, then you have to do what you have to do and you might eat some conventional based. Again, I don't like that. And I don't even like to buy conventional, and I don't buy conventional at a grocery food store simply because I don't want to support the use of pesticides and not even just for us, all right? It's horrible for us, and it can cause cancer, as we do know, and many other issues, right? But it's also horrible for the environment, right? So we look at that as well. But having said that, there are going to be times, for example, when I'm traveling and I'm at a restaurant, guaranteeing you that's not organic food, right? But I have to eat, so I do eat, and I make the best option. I make the best choice. What I like to do, though, on a daily basis when I'm in my own environment, so whether you're at work, you can find a couple places at lunch that will do this, so we'll chat about it right now. And if you are even on the go, I'll go to a Whole Foods because I know what they have there and I know what I can get, and I can get my staples. So what I want you to do right now is make a list of your staples. I'm going to give you my example right now, and I'm going to go through what I call my 7 foods that I can't eat without. I could also call it the 7 foods that I eat on a daily basis. These are my staples. These are really my go-tos. So what I did first, and this is actually important, is you can eat these foods for about a week or 2 or so, okay? And then if you can, you should run a food sensitivity test, an IgG food sensitivity test. Now, you can have your MD or PCP run it if they will. Most won't. But if they will, then that's great. If not, I will link it up in the show notes. Just go to stephencabral.com/964. The food sensitivity test is something that you can literally do right at home. It's just a little poke of the finger like you would do with diabetes just to test your blood sugar. It's just a blood drop. That's all it is. You put it on a card. I've done it with both my girls. I've done it with pretty much all of my brothers and sisters, my sister's children, and everyone in our practice essentially does it. And the reason is it's from an IgG perspective. And again, if you don't know what that is, you can just go to the podcast page. I'll save you from saying the URL again. And just type it in because you want to know that there's a difference, that foods that cause an IgG immune reaction cause inflammation. And that inflammation shows up in whatever your genetics decide to display. Could be joint pain, could be brain fog, could be migraines, could be skin conditions, could be fatigue, could be any of those things, autoimmune. But what happens is when you eat a food, even a healthy food, because we only test for 94 healthy foods, is when you eat that healthy food, it causes inflammation 24 to 72 hours later. Not bloating, not gas, not burping, none of that, right? It could be swelling, could be a little puffiness, could be any of the things I mentioned before. But it's 1 to 3 days later, and that's difficult to figure out. So what I do, I just do it on a yearly basis, just to make sure, because things can start to change in terms of the IgG food sensitivity, is eat the foods that you're typically going to eat. We'll talk about them today. And then what I want you to do is if you're able to, again, if you're not able to, I understand, that's okay. You can continue to rotate foods, and that's all right as well. But if you don't want to rotate your foods on that 3-day basis like I just spoke about, and you'd like to eat them every day, then it's smart to do a food sensitivity test because you'll never know if they're causing inflammation. That's what I did. So now why am I telling you this? Because every day I essentially eat these 7 foods, and I want to go over with them right now with you. So breakfast, seriously, every single day, except maybe one day of the week on the weekends. And I'm just doing a different type of smoothie then. I'm doing a blueberry smoothie because there's really nothing in nature, hardly anything, that has more antioxidants in terms of a fruit-based substance than wild blueberries. So I'm putting those wild blueberries in there, and they're frozen, so they're super convenient. I keep them in my freezer. People are like, oh, well, you should always eat, raw and with all the living enzymes. That would be great. That would absolutely be great. But I live in a city, not in the country, and I have to live in the real world as well. So frozen wild blueberries are fantastic. They have basically everything intact except the enzymes, so that's what I do. And I'm very happy with that. That's a compromise that I'm okay with living with. And then what I do is I throw some spinach in there, okay? So that wasn't even part of my 7, but basically I do that every single day. And then I'm doing oats. I do oats every day. Now that's something I wanted to test because I just have to be careful just with eating too many grains just because I have autoimmune in my entire family, and I had an autoimmune-based disease as well when I was a teenager. But oats for me are totally fine, right? They have to be gluten-free. That's what I purchase, and they're organic, okay? So those are my go-tos, absolutely my go-tos that I'm doing every morning for breakfast. So blueberries and oats, and I threw an extra one spinach right there, okay? So those supply me with massive amounts of antioxidants. And the oatmeal I started doing originally because I needed something to satiate me more. If I did a smoothie without my oats, and I do actually do oatmeal, I do a bowl of oatmeal in the morning with some berries on top. Usually that's when I get my fresh berries in there before I do my smoothie. That allows my smoothie to digest a little bit slower, and I feel much more satiated, and there's no drop in energy. So that works for me. And I've given that to a lot of my more Vata or ectomorph-based wellness clients as well, is to do the oatmeal first, then the smoothie a little while later. Works tremendously well. So I'm doing that every morning, and it's my go-to. I literally do it while I'm traveling everywhere. That's what I do. So, because sometimes it's deconstructed. I can't get too deep into this, but when I'm traveling, I can just literally get blueberries at a Whole Foods, or I can get like a Natural Mart or a Sprouts or any of these types of places. I can just look up on Yelp or my iPhone map, whatever that app is called, and I'll find a place, and I'll just literally go there, and I'll buy some berries, and I'll keep them in my room, and then I'll have my shake, my daily nutritional support shake, and I just shake it up with water, in my shaker bottle, and I'll eat the blueberries on the side, and I'll bring some oatmeal packets. And again, usually I don't do the packets, but while I'm traveling, you do your best, right? So then I add what? Hot water. Okay, that's it. I just have spring water as well, so I can just heat it up in that coffee maker. Even though I'm not making coffee, you can just heat up boiling water. So a little hack there, if you'd like, a little hotel room hack, is you can just use that to boil your water, and now I have oatmeal. Like, it's that easy, right? But those are my go-tos. What I'm trying to show you is that if you have go-tos, you just stay on the plan. You literally just stay in your plan, and it's one less thing for you to think about. So for the most part, when I'm traveling now, like, I'm either traveling with my family just for enjoyment, and that's something that I love to do. But when I'm traveling for work, it's work. I'm going to the event, I'm typically speaking, and then I'm heading back home, right, to see my family and work in my practice. So I'm there to do my work, and I'm not there to eat, like I was saying, eggs downstairs in the hotel lobby or croissants. Like, I'll probably feel terrible that day after eating those. I'll have brain fog, and then I won't be my sharpest. You've listened to this past Monday's Motivation and Mindset Monday, and why I believe that's important, that I have to stay sharp when I'm giving a presentation. Okay, so that was my breakfast, right? For lunch, what am I doing? Every single day. This is Monday through Friday. Okay, the weekends might be a little different, but again, pretty close because I'm still eating healthy on the weekend, but I have more options because I'm with my family. But I go to a place that's close to my office every single day. Now, luckily, I live in the city, so I have a couple choices, which is nice. But every single day, I'm getting broccoli. I'm getting some type of Japanese yams or sweet potatoes or a squash from one of my brightly colored root vegetables. And I'm putting olive oil on that and or a half an avocado, okay? Every single day. And the other thing I'm adding is hemp hearts. That is now my go-to. So I used to kind of switch up protein at lunch, or sometimes I wouldn't even do a protein because I'm committed to not doing any animal protein. Basically vegan until dinner is how I live my life. It's essentially doing the Dr. Cabral detox, right? I'm doing the Dr. Cabral detox, but a smoothie in the morning, and I'm not doing the AYU or the FM-based capsules, right? But I'm living that. I'm trying to live as healthy as I can because I want the energy. I want the vitality. I want the good mood. I want all of the things that gives me. So when you're doing a Dr. Cabral detox and people write in and then they say by days 5, 6, and 7 of how great they feel, and when they're doing the first initial 21-day detox of how amazing they feel it, days 17 and 18, all of that. Well, I've done that, like, I can't say a million times, right? But I've been doing it for 7 years. Eventually, it just dawned on me, I was like, why do I totally change up my diet when I get off my detox? Like, why not just try to continue the most of it? And that's what I did. And when I started doing that about 3 years ago, well, I mean, I got to that next level, that next level. I work more now. I really have more responsibility with my 2 young girls, and they're in sports, and so much going on at my work. And now we're launching the new certification this Monday. There's a little bit going on, but I have more energy than ever. And part of that is just being consistent over time with this nutrition. So that's my lunch. Now there could be, what else could it be? Like, so I might do a zucchini noodle. I might do a rice bowl. I might just do extra sweet potatoes or squash as my starch. I'll have broccoli in there. Now, some days I might put some bok choy in. Some days I might put some cauliflower. But that's not every day. Every day, though, is broccoli. It's always broccoli, right? It's always in there. I digest it well. I don't eat the stem. It's funny. If you eat with me, you'll see a bunch of stems on the plate. You might not want to eat with me because you see like 8 to 10 different broccoli stems hanging out left on the plate. But I've spoken about this before. Now, I love food. I honestly love food. I grew up in an Italian and Portuguese-based family, and where I'm literally like 10 different nationalities. But that's what I associate with the most, especially with the last name like Cabral, and then growing up with an Italian grandmother. So, I love food. I have always loved food. But when I eat that broccoli, I actually enjoy it. I've got some sea salt on there. I've got some olive oil. But the truth is, I know when I'm eating that, how great it makes me feel. That's it. Not right away, but over weeks and months and years now, right? Okay, so that's what I'm doing. I've got all of those great foods. Those are my go-to. And then at dinner, I can't give you a staple because it's different every night. And that's because sometimes we'll do a healthy takeout. My wife will be cooking different things. She'll be experimenting with different types of curry dishes and all sorts of great things that she's cooking. So what did I say, though? Every single day, I'm controlling what I specifically control, which is breakfast and it's lunch. And then if I do a mid-afternoon snack, which is not typical, but if I do a mid-afternoon snack, it's a fresh pressed juice. It's another smoothie, like on workout days I do this. Or it might be a quart of berries or whatever that small container of berries is. And that's what I do. And I keep it super simple. So what are my go-tos? Blueberries, spinach, oats in the morning. And then for lunch, it's broccoli, some type of squash, Japanese yam, sweet potato. So I got my orange color in there, right? I'll do carrots a lot at night as well, rainbow carrots and parsnips. We're big on that. And I always do olive oil, right? Now, probably 4 to 5 days a week, I'm doing avocado. So I'm eating these same 7 foods every single day. So I just told you to do a rotation diet first. That's correct. You do the rotation diet if you have any type, you're trying to figure out your bloating, those types of things. Now, again, it might not be food-based. You might have candida overgrowth. You might have SIBO. You might have H. pylori. You might have parasites. You can test those things with an organic acids test and a stool test, right? That's if you're dealing with bloating every single day of your life, you don't need to live that way. You honestly do not. You just need to figure out what it is. So by running an organic acids test and or a stool test, you can just save yourself years of trial and error. But then for your average person, you're doing pretty well and you like eating the same foods every day. Like my friend Jay Ferrugia, he posts online on Instagram. He says his new favorite thing, I just saw this actually 2 days ago, is blueberries and avocado. He loves mixing the two together, and that's his like afternoon snack, I think. I don't know if it's mid-morning or afternoon, but that's what he loves. And he eats it basically every single day. And so when you look at that, you say, okay, great. The only reason that like anything like that would be bad if you ate the same foods every day, because if we look at previous cultures, like look at all of the previous cultures, they ate essentially the same foods every single day. That's what they did. But you have to make sure, though, that I'm not telling you to eat the same foods every day. I actually don't recommend it, right? Besides what I told you, I add other things in, but those are my staples. And I also did a food sensitivity test to make sure that these were not inflammatory foods for me, because I have to worry that. I mean, like I have to be cognizant of that. My genetics are just massively prone to inflammation. But since I know that, I do the things to not allow the inflammation, again, to come to fruition in my life. That's what it's all about. So hopefully today's show was helpful. Really, I would love to hear if you have your own set of go-to foods. Like I would really like to hear, like, what are your go-to? Because I'm always looking for new ideas because I will add things in. Hemp hearts came into my life probably about 4 years ago or so, maybe 5 years ago. And I've kind of never looked back. They're so great. They're an amazing food. Again, not for everyone. You need to see if they work for you. But they've been great. When I started eating oats because of higher cholesterol in the past and all sorts of issues, and they help with that as well. That's why I started doing them. And they stuck, and they ended up working great, and they were satiating. And that was maybe like 15 years ago. So again, I would love to hear your favorite go-to foods, maybe your top 7. Leave it at Instagram, just at Stephen Cabral, my name. Go right there, check it out for today's post, which is episode 964. And also, you can leave it right at cabralsupportgroup.com, which is our free Facebook group that you're absolutely welcome to join. I would love to have you. Love having positive, happy people surrounding me. Always brings up that vibe, which we love. And again, if you have questions, if you're going through struggles, we'll help you with that as well. But, really be there, support other people. We'll support you. Really an amazing community that this is. So thank you so much. Hope you have an amazing day, and I will check in with you again tomorrow. For all show notes, simply go to stephencabral.com/964 for today. Ever wonder what the best sauna, blue blockers, sleep trackers, wake lights, salt lamps, or other health gadgets are? Or what about the top non-toxic mattresses, sheets, soaps, bath products, toothpaste, and cookware? Or would you like to know the cleanest choices for hemp parts, meal delivery services, supplements, and much more? I personally curated, researched, and now created a resource page of all of my top picks that continues to grow each week. These are the exact products I use in my own life, with my family, in my private practice, and they're the ones I trust. To find out all of my up-to-date recommendations and all the details, simply head on over to stephencabral.com/resources.